Maggie, and I thought today I would talk to you a little bit about how I do vocabulary in my classroom. Let me just start by talking about vocabulary in general. So, I think vocabulary is a big part of English class in high school because, at least for me, right now I have all English 2 classes, so a big part of that EOC is actually vocabulary. We can't teach our kids every single word in existence. It's not possible. All we can do is pick out specific ones that we think might be beneficial, that challenge them, things like this. So, I'm going to tell you how I use vocabulary in my room, and also some techniques and tricks and different levels for different classes, so that differentiation. So I'm going to start by talking about my inclusion class, which is my lower EC level class that needs a lot of attention, a lot of help. So they do vocabulary. I think that's really a great skill for them. And the way I do it in their class is they have a list of 10 words. They get them on Monday. They take the quiz on Friday. And all week, they turn in little assignments that help them get more involved with the words. This is something I just started doing recently. I'm going to be honest with you. It's I cannot talk today. It is very elementary, and I stole it from elementary memories. So, their words, there's only 10 of them. Their words are very easy. Most of them know half of the words already. So, for instance, this week, their words were like certainly, definitely, business, character, trying to remember some. And then there was 2 really hard ones I think are hard for them, and that's conscious and then conscience. And they were there together, so they're there to confuse them, so they have to know the difference. So for them, they have easy words. The extra thing on top of their vocab is they have to know how to spell all of them. I'm not a huge proponent to the kids having to know how to spell, but for this class, it's something that they have to know. They have to know how to spell the words. So, what we do is each day of the week, they have an assignment they have to do with the words. So, on Monday, they write the word 5 times. I am aware this is very elementary school. This group of kids needs that. So they write it 5 times. I tell them if they want to have fun with it, they can do them in different colors. They can write in whatever color they want to. Turn it in easy 100, and it helps boost their grade because they need it. So Monday, they do it 5 times each. Tuesday, they have to put the word into a sentence. They have to use it in a sentence. And I tell them it has to be a good sentence. And I don't mean good sentence as in capital letter at the beginning, period at the end, even though they still have to do that. I mean, I should be able to tell that they know what the word means from their sentence. So I tell them if the word's dangerous, they can't put this is dangerous. I know that's a complete sentence, but that's not going to cut it for me. So they have to do upper level sentences. Then on Wednesday, they have to write the definitions. And I tell them, you can look it up online, but I want you to write a definition that makes sense for you, that you can remember. Because sometimes the definitions are more confusing, when you look them up. And then, that was Wednesday. And then on Thursday, then they do 1 antonym and 1 synonym for each one of the vocab words. So all throughout the week, they've done those assignments, and for me, it's forced interaction with their list. It's forced interaction with studying. And what I will do is me and my EC teacher will sit down with some of them and discuss their work. So for instance, this week, when the kids wrote the words 5 times, they spelled them wrong. So I made them sit down. We sat down with the whiteboard, and I would call out the word, and I would have them write it. Call out a different word, have them write it. Tell me what that one means. Just doing kind of that one-on-one work that they need, because this low group needs one-on-one. And also, I think it's about teaching them how to study, because I don't know about your kids in your room, but my kids do not know how to study. So it's kind of like teaching them, this is something you can do at home. Like someone can say the word and then you can write it down and then you can check it. Just kind of teaching them how to do it. And that way I can also kind of see their thought process. Like I have one kid this semester who every time something starts with a C, they start it with an S. And so I would have never realized that if we hadn't sat down and done that one-on-one. Now, I will say, I'm sure there are some classes, there's no way you can do one-on-one. For me, it works. I get the kids started working on something. Do I get interrupted a lot? Yes. I get interrupted to answer questions about stuff, but it's fine. I get interrupted, I keep on going. Having another inclusion teacher, like an EC teacher in the room helps, because they can either answer the kids' questions while you're doing the one-on-one, or vice versa. They could do the one-on-one and you answer questions. Or if it's a really good class, you could both be doing one-on-one. We just discuss their work. So let's say they turn in the sentences and none of their sentences have periods, or none of their sentences are good sentences. They're like, this is dangerous. She was courageous. Maybe they you can tell they copied the sentences online. Like I had a kid this week who turned in a sentence with the word nuance in it. And when I asked them to read the sentence, she said, nuance, or what did she say? She was like, nuancy, nuancy, I think nuancy. And I was like, how do you say that word? Nuancy. And I was like, no. I said, it's nuance. And she was like, it's nuancy. I was like, you copied this sentence online. So I sat down with her and we had to redo some sentences with words that she actually knew. So it was beneficial to her. So that's something that I do with the inclusion class that I'm hoping is going to have a lot of good results. The other thing is, in that class, since it's an inclusion setting, I have EC students and I have academic students that are not EC in that room, 2 sets. And what I'm realizing is the gap between those 2 groups is growing. And so what I've decided I'm going to do now is I have made a list, which I can't show you because it has students' names on it. I've made a list of who next week is going to get a different list of words. And they're going to actually get the next list of words that I'm going to talk about for my other students that are in my regular academic setting class. So here's the next set of vocab. The next set of vocab is my regular academic level class. They can handle a little bit more than the EC level class can. So here's what their words like. They have 10 words also. They get the words on Monday. They take the quiz on Friday. They do not have to do assignments with them currently. But I've already decided this week if their vocab quiz grades are not great, then we're going to start doing assignments with them too. And I'm thinking I'm going to have them use one of these vocabulary like mapping things. This is one that I just made. Actually, one of my math friends gave me this one and I made my own version. So on mine it has, they write the word, they write the definition, they write the sentence, they write one synonym, one antonym, they write the word 5 times, and then they have to do a visual representation of it. And I'm going to tell them it can be whatever they want it to be. So that means they'll do 10 of these. And I don't feel bad about it because they're not studying. And if they were studying, then they wouldn't need to do this. So, for that class, their words are more difficult. So their words are like credulous, exaggerate, culprit, judicial, nurture, intoxicate, bolster, right? So they're like more difficult words than the other classes because they need that. They need that challenge. They do not have to know how to spell theirs, but I do give them 5 extra credit spelling words, and they are 5 of the words from the inclusion classes list. This is kind of to keep me sane. You know, if you're doing 3 different vocab lists and there's no connection between the 3 of them, like my brain goes crazy. So that's what theirs looks like. So they will take the quiz, and their quiz is more difficult too. And then they spell out the 5 extra credit spelling words. And it's if they miss all of them, it's nothing. If they get all 5 right, it's plus 5 onto their vocab score. And I just tell that class that's their extra credit. Now let's talk about honors. So honors to me is a different world. And especially this semester because I have some very high kids in my honors class. And again, this is all English too, so just different levels. So for my honors level kids, they actually do stems, which is another way of saying prefixes, suffixes, root words. That's what they do. So they have a list of 100 that we will go through throughout the whole semester. And what we do is we do 10 a week. The difference is theirs are cumulative. So the first week there was 10. The second week there was a new 10 plus the previous 10. The third week there was a new 10 plus the previous 20. And we do that all the way up until 50. So by the time they're taking their 5th vocab quiz, they're being tested on 50 stems. And it's a lot, but it's matching. Then after we get to 50, they take a test. And the test is not matching. They have to know what it means and they have to write it down. So they have to know add means toward and they write it. And then we start over with number 6, back at 10. So for me, I think honors needs that kind of level of vocab. But what I've started doing this semester with them is they also do an assignment with their stems because I found that they also were not studying and not interacting with their vocab. So it's forced interaction. They only do 1 assignment a week, but I switch it up. Every week they do something different. And I found that it's really, they're quick things for me to grade, but again, it's forcing them to interact with their vocab. So here are some of the assignments that they did. They did one where they had to find a synonym stem and an antonym stem that could go with that stem. So out of the 10 stems for that week, they were finding 1 synonym and 1 antonym for each one. And it had to be a stem. It's not just a random word. So that one's kind of helping them make connections. And again, really easy to grade. They also did one where they had to do a visual vocabulary. So they took the stem and wrote the definition that I've already given them, and then they had to come up with a picture or a visual of some sort that they had drawn that went with it. And pretty much my requirements for that are it has to be colored and it needs to make sense. Other than that, I kind of let them do. If they want to do stick figures, if it was like toward and they wanted to do an arrow like towards, like that's fine because it's just a visual to help them kind of remember. My favorite one that they did was they had to make their own word. They had to come up with their own word using the stem. So for instance, if the stem was like side, as in C-I-D-E, I said like snack-a-side. So death by snacking. And then they put it in a sentence. So they had to make a word, give me the definition of their new word, and then put it in a sentence. And I think they had fun with it. I enjoyed reading them and grading them because they were funny. But like we're reading A Doll's House, and one of the kids put Doll's House aside, which is, death by reading A Doll's House or whatever. Okay. And then one of the other assignments they had to do with it was they had to find 5 words, like vocab words, that started with that stem and give me the definition of the word. So you're pretty much forcing them to make a connection between the stem and the definition of a word. So if the stem was aqua and it meant water, within the definition of all 5 words, you're looking for something to do with water. Ocean, lake, water, rain, whatever. So that's some of the assignments they do with it. And then the cool part is on the 5th one, I let them pick because that was 4 different choices. So in the 5th one, they get to decide what it is that they want to do, and they pick whichever one and turn it in, and it's easy. I will say their requirements, though, for this assignment are it's due before they take the quiz, and I don't accept them late. Because if you do the assignment after the quiz, you didn't learn anything. You need it before you take the quiz. So they do it on Canvas, which is a learning management system, kind of like Google Classroom. And so it locks. And it locks before they take the quiz. So if they don't get it turned in, then I don't take it. And yeah, I'm a little bit harsh on that, but they have a whole week to do it. So I'm kind of over it. So that's the 3 different levels. So you have honors doing prefixes and suffixes. You have academic level doing difficult vocabulary words with 5 extra credit spelling words. And then the inclusion class, you have them doing 10 easy words, maybe medium words, and they have to know how to spell all 10 of them, not extra credit. So that's my 3 different levels that I do. And like I said, some of my inclusion kids that have been really acing these vocab quizzes every week with the easy words, they're about to bump up and take the same quiz as my academic class to give them a challenge, because they need that challenge to grow. So, talk. That's that. Now, here's the fun part. Let me tell you what are some of the fun things that you can do in your class to spice up vocabulary. So the first thing is, if you do anything related to spelling, you need Sparkle. You need Sparkle in your life. Sparkle is a new version of spelling bee. As Brian Regan says, stand against the wall, it's time for public humiliation. I like Sparkle because it's not so public humiliation-y. It's more collaborative. So I have my class stand in a giant circle, and what we'll do is I will say the word belligerent, and I will point at a kid, and they will start it. So B, the next kid says E, the next kid says L, and it goes all the way until they finish spelling the word. Then the last person, after the person says T for belligerent, the next person after that will say Sparkle to signify that the word is complete and that they know that it's complete. So I really like that version. What happens is, if you miss the letter, if you don't say Sparkle and it's your turn, if you have to ask what word is being spelled, if you talk, any of those kind of things, you sit down and you're out. And the circle keeps getting smaller until hopefully you have just 2 kids kind of battling it out really fast, and maybe one will get out, and then you have a winner. I will admit, if your kids are actually studying and like trying on this, I have a lot of times that I'll have it down to about 4 kids, 5 kids, and I can't get it any smaller, and you've already gone through the words. So sometimes I'll throw in words from the previous week, or I'll throw in the vocab words they didn't have to spell, and I always give the winner a little prize. I will give you a warning. If you have a rough and rowdy class that likes to make fun of each other, it may not be good for you, because my class has had to have Sparkle taken away for a little while because they were making fun of people who said the wrong letter. And I said, Sparkle is a privilege. It's a game. You do not have to play it. And if you're going to make fun of other people, then we will not play it. So we haven't played it in a couple weeks. But, maybe we'll throw it back in the mix sometime soon. So Sparkle's fun for spelling. Another thing that I like to do, especially with my honors class, is with their stems, especially when they turned in their visual vocabulary, we played Pictionary. So the whiteboards that I made, you can give each group or pair or whatever a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker, and they play Pictionary. So one person draws, the other person guesses, and then I always tell them, whoever wins, you can come tell me. And if I'm feeling like it, they can have a piece of candy or a sticker or something. So they think that's fun, and it's an easy way to do some review in your room. Another thing that I love doing for vocab is playing Scoot. So Scoot is a game I think I've talked about before, maybe not, that I stole from elementary school, where you have your room kind of in groups, and you lay out certain tasks and things at that group, and then you put a timer on it. And when the timer runs out and I yell Scoot, you have to move to the next group and start on that. So for vocab, it'll be I'll put out the word, they have to write down the definition, or I'll put out the definition and they have to know the word. They don't have a list in front of them. And then sometimes I'll put that they have to put it in a sentence, and they'll have maybe 5 minutes at each group or less. And it's a very kinesthetic, moving activity, and they just turn that in for a grade. We go over it, and it's a fun way to review for vocab. Another thing is Kahoot, and I would just say if you're not using Kahoot in your classroom and you are a one-on-one school, then what are you doing? It's wonderful. The kids love it. Kahoot is kind of like a game show, but it's super easy to use, and it's super fun. So you just put in questions and put in answers. It has fun music. It runs through them like a game show. You project it on the screen. And at the end, if you want to, it gives you a top 5, so you can award the top 5. The kids get immediate gratification of if they've got something right or wrong. It gives you a chance to go over it and ask questions. And it also is kind of nice for informal assessment to see how everyone's doing overall. Because if everyone's missing certain kind of questions, then they're not doing well on that. We need to go over it. You also can download the results at the end into a an Excel spreadsheet, which I really like, which means you can actually take it for a grade if you wanted to. So sometimes I will use it even in class for like grading stuff, but it's a nice way to see how they're doing, and it's also a fun way to review. And that doesn't have to be just for vocab, it can be for anything, just like Scoot. So there's some ways that you can mix it up. Vocab to me is very important in the English classroom, and for English 2, it's a huge part of the EOC, so it's something that we have to do. And I hope that this helps you with some vocab ideas for your classroom. Tell me down in the comments, what are some ways you use vocabulary in your classroom? What kind of words and lists are you using for your kids? And let me know what are some games and review things and assignments that you do with your kids, because I would love to steal them for my classroom. Hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.